A stranger predicted my mom's death, and he was right. Now the room I swore never existed is back, and I'm the only one who remembers it. For the past few years, I've comforted myself by saying I'm in my early 70s, like somehow that makes the truth easier to swallow. But numbers don't lie, and today, like it or not, I'm 75. 75! Damn! Time's got a wicked sense of humor. Don't get me wrong, I'm not fishing for birthday wishes or pats on the back. This isn't some milestone I'm throwing a party for. Sure, I'm grateful to still be breathing, but every year that ticks by feels a little emptier than the last. My joints creak like old floorboards, my kids are scattered across the country, living lives that barely intersect with mine, and that cold, quiet space on the other side of the bed, it's been untouched for just over 8 months now. Honestly, after I cast my vote to boot that sorry excuse for a president, yes, I still despise Trump. Come November, I'm not really sure what I'll be hanging around for. So save your cheerful happy birthdays and your fake smiles. That's not what I came here for. I've got a story to tell, and I need to get it out before I no longer have the chance. I used to convince myself it was too ridiculous to share or that no one would take me seriously. But here's the truth, and it hits harder with age. You can only lie to yourself for so long. Eventually, the weight of pretending wears you down. And if I'm being real with you, I haven't told anyone because this story, it terrifies me. Still does. But death doesn't scare me like it used to. So lean in. Really listen. The year was 1950, and the place was a sleepy little town in Maine. I was 9 years old, a scrawny kid, smaller than most, and with just one friend in the world. Then out of nowhere, his family decided to pack up and move 2,000 miles away. Just like that. No warning. No time to say a proper goodbye. That summer was shaping up to be the loneliest, most miserable one of my life. My dad, nowhere to be found. And my mom, bless her tireless, overworked soul, was what I used to call a chore whore. Yeah, I actually came up with that myself as a kid, and man, was I proud of it. So yeah, home wasn't exactly a place I was itching to hang out in. After some back and forth in my head, I landed on the public library as my summer refuge. Not that it was anything fancy. The children's book section was a joke. Barely a dozen shelves, most of them dusty or half empty. But what that tiny library lacked in stories, it made up for with peace and quiet. No lists of chores waiting to ambush me, no nagging voice calling from the kitchen, rest her soul, and most importantly, no other kids trying to rope me into games or small talk. I had the social ranking of a used napkin, and the library was a kingdom where I ruled alone, and I liked it that way. The first half of that summer? Miserable. Even more than I'd braced for. I'd sleep till 10, knock out my chores like a prisoner on work duty, then drag my sorry excuse for a bike, a rusted-out pile of garbage barely held together, across town to the library. And once I got there, I'd split my time evenly between irritating the elderly patrons without realizing it and doing it on purpose. One sweet old lady actually snapped at me mid-tongue click and hissed, "Shut the fuck up!" right there in the reading room. That was the first time I ever heard an adult drop the F-bomb. Might not sound like much now, but back then, that was legendary. The boring days bled into weeks, so soul-numbing, I started praying for school to come back around, until I found the basement. Now, don't get me wrong, I thought I'd explored every corner of that library, but one day, I was wandering aimlessly near the back, behind the foreign language section, and there it was. A small wooden door I swear hadn't been there before. That's where everything changed. It was a strange little door, no window, carved from old oak that looked like it belonged in some medieval castle, not a dinky New England library. The knob was black metal, ancient looking, with what seemed to be a tiny footprint engraved right in the center. Something about it whispered, "Forbidden," and to a lonely 9-year-old, that meant interesting as hell. I scanned the room, made sure nobody was watching, and then, heart thudding, gripped the heavy knob, opened the door, and slipped inside. Darkness. I mean, complete darkness. Not just dim or shadowy, this was the kind of black that swallows sound and makes you forget you have a body. I crept forward a few steps, arms out, hoping to find a wall or shelf or literally anything to anchor myself. Instead, my fingers brushed against something small and soft, dangling from above, a string. Back in the day, light bulbs in old buildings were often turned on with strings. And sure enough, I gave it a good yank, and boom, light. A single naked bulb flickered on, casting a weak glow over a small platform coated in dust, thick enough to write your will in. To my left was a wooden spiral staircase, crooked, creaky, and looking like it hadn't passed a safety inspection since before color TV. The bulb was the only light in sight, and beyond the railing, the staircase just dissolved into pitch black. That's when the fear hit. Because this place didn't feel like part of the library anymore. It didn't even feel like part of the same planet. Still, I was 9. And if there's one thing about 9-year-olds, it's that mystery always outweighs common sense. If I could go back, I'd scream at that kid version of me to turn around. Go home, ride your busted-ass bike, clean the toilet, do literally anything else. I'd tell him this would cost him too many sleepless nights. But would I have listened? Probably not. So instead, I took a breath, grabbed the splintered railing, and started down. The wood felt brittle under my fingers, like it would snap if I leaned the wrong way. I let go, arms out for balance, and took it one step at a time. The staircase felt endless. The dim bulb above got smaller and dimmer with every step, and my heart was pounding like a drum solo in a horror movie. Even kids know when something's not right. They just don't always care. Eventually, my sneakers hit cold concrete. The bulb above was now a faint dot, but up ahead there was something else, another door. Huge, deep red, almost breathing. The light spilled out from behind it, leaking around the edges in thin, eerie lines. It was the kind of glow that made your skin crawl, dim, but somehow too bright for where it was. I froze, took another breath, and because of course I did, I opened that second door. And boom, blinding light. It hit me like walking out into the sun after being locked in a cellar. I had to squint, shield my eyes, and when I finally adjusted, what I saw nearly knocked the air out of me. It was a library, the most perfect library imaginable. I stood there, just inside the doorway, jaw practically hitting the floor. This room, it was magic. Not in the fairy tale kind of way, but in that, how is this even real kind of way. It was smaller than the main library upstairs, sure, but it felt made for me. Like the universe had carved out a space and said, "Here, kid, this one's yours." The shelves were bursting with books, every single one vibrant and begging to be read. 2 armchairs sat in the center, one of them this deep royal purple, practically hugging you with its cushions. The other one sat directly across, untouched. And the smell? God, the smell. A wild mix of citrus and pine that hit me in the face like a forest breeze on a fresh summer morning. It was unbelievable. Even now, 75 years later, I've never smelled anything like it. But instead of asking all the logical questions, what is this place? Why haven't I heard of it before? Why is it empty? All I could think was, I'm never going to be bored again. And for 3 years, boredom did leave me alone. From age 9 to 12, that hidden basement library was my sanctuary, my escape. I went there every chance I got. Nobody else ever came down, and weirdly, no one seemed to notice me slipping in and out. I never checked out a single book. I always picked up right where I'd left off. And every time I sat in the same purple armchair, the other chair never touched it. Never even considered it. Something about it just said, "Not yours, kid." Then came my 12th birthday. The day everything changed. Mom threw this little party, invited cousins and a couple kids from school. I appreciated the effort, but let's be real. I would have traded all the cake and noise just to curl up with a good book in that perfect-smelling room. When the guests finally left, I bolted for the library, made it there with 15 minutes to spare before closing. But I wasn't worried. No one ever checked the basement. Once I was in, I was free to stay as long as I wanted. That night, I was tearing through the last chapters of an epic adventure. Knights, dragons, enchanted swords, the works. I was completely locked in. And then I finished it, closed the book. That's when I noticed the smell. It was still the same scent, technically, citrus and pine, but something about it had twisted, soured. It wasn't comforting anymore. It was wrong, like when you stare at one of those optical illusions too long and suddenly it flips, like that young lady, old lady thing. You can't unsee it. And I couldn't unsmell this. Worse, it wasn't coming from everywhere like before. Now it had a source. I could tell. I sniffed around the room like some weird bloodhound until I zeroed in on a back shelf. Everything there looked normal, except for one book. It was this thick, leather-bound thing, dusty maroon cover, a single black footprint stamped on the spine. That was it. That was the smell. I opened the front cover, and there it was. Just one line, written in blood-red ink. "Rest your sorrows down, friend, and leave them where they lie." Creepy. But I couldn't stop. I started backing toward my chair, flipping the pages as I went, each one blank. But the smell, stronger, much stronger. It hit me like a punch to the throat. I nearly gagged, but I kept flipping. One more page, then another. And then, my name. I froze, stared, dropped the book. My heart took off like a jackhammer. I turned to run. Get out, but stopped dead in my tracks. The second armchair wasn't empty anymore. A man older, dressed in a tailored suit, leg crossed, watching me with sharp gray eyes and this half smile. Calm, amused. It was too much. My knees gave out. I dropped and threw up, right there on the carpet. Just sat there, stunned, wiping my mouth like a zombie. Then the man laughed. A chuckle. I looked up at him, horrified. "Who are you?" I croaked, my voice cracking. He stood, walked over, and placed both hands on my shoulders, gentle but firm. Helped me back to my chair like we were old friends. Sat down in the other one, had finally claimed the seat that had always somehow belonged to him. "I fear we got off to a bad start," he said, casually nodding toward the pile of vomit on the carpet. "The smell, it takes some getting used to." My throat was dry. My heart wouldn't slow down. "Who are you?" I asked again, voice barely above a whisper. "Tonight," the man said, his voice like gravel soaked in honey, "you'll know pain like you've never known before. I'm here as a friend to offer you shelter from that storm and the ones still coming." Every part of me wanted to run, my body tensed, ready to bolt, but somehow I stayed put. My voice came out small, wary. "What are you talking about?" He tilted his head, almost sadly. "Your mother is dead, my boy. Took her own life, right there in the kitchen. It's a gruesome scene, I'll admit." His tone was mournful, but there was a twinkle in his eye that made my skin crawl. "I can help you avoid that path. I can show you a better one." His words hit like ice water down my spine, but I didn't believe him, not for a second. "What do you want from me?" I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. He laughed then, a dry, rattling cackle that seemed to shake the dust from his old bones. "Nothing but your friendship, dear boy," he said with a grin, but he must have sensed that wasn't enough because he leaned forward, his tone softening. "I want you to come with me. I do noble work. You'd make a fine apprentice. And maybe, when I'm finished," he sighed, brushing a trembling hand through wispy white hair, "maybe you could carry it on." I stood slowly backing toward the door, but never taking my eyes off him. "You're insane," I snapped. "My mom's not dead. You're lying." He nodded once, unbothered. "Then go. See for yourself." He gestured toward the door like a host excusing a guest. I glared at him, then turned and made a break for it. My hand closed around the doorknob, then I heard him say my name. Soft, gentle, and like a fool, I looked back. "Your road won't be easy, friend," he said, voice low and calm. "But if it ever becomes too much, ever," he swept his hand across the room, "you know where to find me." I slammed the door and flew up the stairs like a man on fire. Out the front doors, onto my bike. I didn't stop pedaling until I hit my driveway. The front door was wide open. My bike hit the ground in a heap as I raced up to the house, my chest tight. He had to be lying. He had to be. But my throat burned and tears blurred my vision. My hands shook as I stepped inside. "Mom?" I called out, my voice cracking. Nothing. I turned into the kitchen. To this day, I still don't know why she did it. I've spent my whole life in that sleepy Maine town, though I've kept my distance from the public library. Once, in my late 20s, curiosity got the better of me. I walked through its doors again. My life was good back then, calm. The fear had dulled into something more like a memory. I went looking for that basement. Where that heavy oak door used to be, there was nothing, just a blank wall. I asked the librarian what had happened to the basement. She gave me a confused smile, said there was no basement. Never had been. In fact, she told me city zoning laws wouldn't even allow for one. Still, the smell haunts me. That cloying blend of citrus and pine. It creeps in when my world starts to fall apart. I smelled it when I found Mom in the kitchen. I smelled it when a man, my so-called father, showed up at my college door, asked for money, then beat me half to death when I refused. I smelled it when my wife miscarried, twice. And again when our son got drunk, crashed our car, and killed his girlfriend. I smelled it while my wife withered away from illness, and every day since she passed last year. Now, for the first time in over 50 years, I'm truly alone. And the smell, it lingers, stronger than ever. It feels like it's calling to me. A few months ago, I passed the library again on one of my nightly walks, and the door was there. The small oak door with that antique handle, right where it used to be. Since then, I've walked past it every night. Haven't gone in. Not yet. I'm scared to die. But lately, I'm more scared to keep living. He told me it wouldn't be easy, and damn, he was right. Rest your sorrows down, friend, and leave them where they lie. That's what the book said. He promised peace, a refuge, relief from the storm. Was he telling the truth? There's only one way to find out. After all, I still know where to find him.